Hi guys, and a very warm welcome to you all, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk more about the 900 DSX. Those of you who are following the channel will know I've got a few videos out on this particular motorbike and some of the features and things I've done to it. But at the moment the DSX 900 has landed on UK shores. This particular bike landed in Spain 4.5 months ago. I was one of the first European purchasers to receive the bike. I ordered it at last Christmas, and waited until the end of April to receive the bike from the dealership. And I'm going to talk a bit about the bike, and we're going to first attack the elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room being the fact that this is a Chinese bike. Now, the fact that this is a Chinese bike has caused, here in Spain and throughout Europe and worldwide, this bike is selling like hotcakes. The controversy it's caused is the fact that people think it's a cheaply made Chinese bike. It couldn't be further from the truth. Before we get into the background of the bike, the engine and all the rest of it, VOGE, the parent company of VOGE, Lonsin, have had an agreement with BMW for about 20 years now. And since the Rotax engines stopped being produced in Austria for the earlier parallel twin series of bikes and singles as well for BMW, BMW went over to Lonsin and they made an agreement that Lonsin would design and build engines for their parallel twin bikes, and they've been doing that for 20 years. Lonsin, this particular company, they are the parent company of VOGE, produce about 4 million engines a year, and they produce about 2 million motorcycles a year. They also produce and build in its entirety the 400cc scooter for BMW. So you can see that BMW have great confidence in Lonsin to produce them engines for their motorcycles, and this particular engine, the 900cc engine in this particular bike, is the same engine that's in the F850 BMW and the 900s. The new F900 GS is rated at 105 horsepower, where this particular model is rated at 95 horsepower, albeit the same engine. Now, there's a reason behind that. People are saying it's not the same engine, it's possibly the 850 engine, slightly bored out or whatever, but they won't make two different production lines to produce two different engines. This is the same engine in its entirety as the 900 in the F900 GS. And I'll explain briefly why this bike runs at 95 brake horsepower. The ruling to get A2 certification by reducing the output of any motorcycle, the stipulation is that it has to comply with a maximum of 50% of the initial horsepower of the bike. The maximum horsepower you can have on an A2 licensed bike is 48 brake horsepower, 47, 48 brake horsepower. Double that up, 48, double it up, and you've got 96. Now 96 is the maximum you can have on a bike that will be allowed to be reduced to half its potential and be compatible for an A2 license. So you could have a 75 horsepower bike that's going to be well within the stated output once it's reduced by half. So that's the rhyme and reason behind this being 95 brake horsepower. There will be kits that you can put on, controller kits that are going to go to the ECU, where you can take it up to 105, 110 brake horsepower, whatever you want. But as it comes out of the factory standard and mapped, it's mapped away purely for the paperwork to pass inspection as a mass-produced bike that can be A2 compatible. So right, let's address a few of the things on this bike. Why did I purchase this bike? I bought this bike blind without ever seeing the bike. I'd seen it at EICMA on the Italy bike show, and I bought it blind. So the reason I bought it blind, firstly, it's got a BMW engine. The components on the bike are KYB front and rear suspension, fully adjustable. The Bosch system ECU that controls the bike is a standard Bosch system, and it's right across the market. It's well known and well featured. The brakes are Brembo brakes. So the whole setup of the bike, apart from the plastics and the chassis, are pretty much standard high-end moto industry standard pieces. So again, that was one of the main things that pulled me towards this bike, and the price factor. Now, you guys in the UK, you're going to be paying a little bit more for this because of the way the taxation works in different countries. but I paid for this in sterling without the luggage, £7,500 sterling UK. That was on the road price. With the luggage comes in at about maybe £600 sterling on top of that. So about 8,001 sterling complete on the road. So an absolute bargain of a bike. So I've had this bike now 4.5 months. I've covered 3,500 kilometers on it. What are my thoughts? It's a superb bike, guys. There's no getting away from this. The quick shifter, it takes some getting used to. It's not something that you would use all the time. That's why it's got a clutch on it. If it didn't have a clutch, it would be an automatic and you quick shift all the time, but it has got a clutch. The quick shifter, once you've got a few miles on the bike, when you get near 3,500 like I've got on the bike, the quick shifter works perfect on the bike. The cruise control is absolutely amazing on the bike. You can, same as any other bike, the cruise works that you can increase speed, decrease speed, set it to any speed you want. You get an indication on the dash if you're in the wrong gear. Obviously, if you change gear and you change up or down, it will temporarily knock the cruise off and you'll have to reset it again and it'll go back to the speed you were doing before. But all the components on the bike, guys, are top end. There's been a few people talked about the Lobu luggage. Now, Lobu is a Chinese manufacturer of luggage and racks and components for bikes, and they're considered high-end in China as well. Nothing really bad I can say about them, apart from the capacity could be a bit better. You could go for a double box to get 2 helmets in, and the side boxes would probably be okay. They all lock and come off the bike via a key. Pretty well made, pretty sturdy. I've had them on since new, no problems. I've had no bashes or anything on the bike. If you go on the Lobu website, you can get a double size top box that fits on the same frame, same manufacturer Lobu again. But at this moment in time, you've got Givy are doing racks and boxes, and a plethora of other companies now are making things for this bike. Go on AliExpress, there's all sorts of screen racks, racks for your sat navigation, etc. Everything about the bike is really good. You've got the sensors in the tyres. So let's look at the price factor again. We're looking at the same version, the BMW F850 GS, so you can go to the 900 if you want, but we'll stick with the old F850 GS. Purely from a design aesthetic, it looks very similar to this, the F850 GS. So on the 850 GS, especially in Spain, you're going to be paying about 14,000 euros for that. With the 14,000 euros, you're not going to get heated grips, you're not going to get a heated seat, you're not going to get a front camera, you're not going to get cruise control, you're not going to get a rear radar on it. You're not only going to get 2 ride modes. This has got 4 ride modes. It's got Enduro, Rain, Road and Sports mode. All ride modes on this are very, very different when you're using it. If you're going to be tootling around in traffic, in and out of town, especially in the UK, I would advise you to put it on Rain mode. I know that sounds a bit crazy, but the throttling is a lot softer on Rain mode, and for filtering in and out of slow moving traffic, it's a lot smoother and a lot more refined. Once you get up to sports mode, it's like a scolded cat. The throttle response is instant and it takes off and screams along the way. Going back to Chinese manufacturing, a lot of things are going on in the world now with the automotive industry as a whole. I'm not just talking about motorbikes, I'm talking about cars. At one time, China imported a massive amount of cars from Ford and for VW. Now, over the last 2 or 3 years, the amount has dropped significantly because the younger Chinese buyers now are buying motorcycles and cars that are produced in China. Now, I'm not going around waving a red Chinese flag and up in China in any other way. No more than I am when I had Japanese bikes running around holding a Japanese flag. I might have had a jacket with Yamaha on the back, I might have had a jacket with Suzuki or whatever. That's just brand, but I'm not condoning anything that China does that doesn't agree with our Western standards. What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter where you buy your bike from, most bikes are produced in Asia, whether it's India, Taiwan, China, Vietnam, they're all produced over there. Lots of Triumphs are produced over there, a plethora of bikes are produced over there. So we need to get away from this mentality that it's a Chinese bike and it's going to be rubbish, because this bike, I've had it 4.5 months, there's not a mark on it. I've not driven it lightly. I've pushed it in sports and I've ridden it hard. The fuel consumption, when I was running it in the first 1,000 kilometers, I was getting 3.7, 3.8 litres to 100 kilometers. That's phenomenal out of a 900cc bike. Acceleration in sports mode, it's absolutely bonkers, guys. It will go like a sports bike. You can, if you wanted to get into big illegal numbers, you could get up to 190, 200 kph without a single qualm on the bike. It's not a sports bike, but them figures, you're talking 135, 140 mile an hour. Not the same as your super sports bikes, but certainly for this type of bike, it's amazing. Different add-on features that you're not going to see on other bikes. We've got a steering damper on the front of this one. You can't see it here, but it's sticking out the side. Any excessive speed over 120 kph, which is roughly 80 mile an hour in UK terms, there's no vibration, there's no steering wheel wobble. If you push it up to 150, 160, with all the luggage, a pillion on the back, no wobble. It's as solid and as stable as you like. So, quick shifter. A lot of people have been saying that there's no quick shifter, because you can see this rod here. On the earlier BMW bikes, you would see an electronic solenoid here, and what the electronic solenoid would do, if you weren't compressing the clutch lever and you put any pressure on the pedal, only this amount up or down, it would send a signal to the electric solenoid that you were shifting the shift, and that would then engage the clutch to shift automatically, or the mechanical system that allowed the quick shift to shift without using the manual clutch. On this particular bike and on the later BMWs, if you go on a website now and you pull up a picture on Google of the F850 GS or the new F900 GS, you'll notice this is exactly the same, because it's the same engine, it's the same gearbox, the swing arm on the back is virtually the same. If you want to get a rear hugger or stuff to go on the back axle, F850 GS, they all fit, they just go straight on. So the wheels on it, you look at the design on the F850 GS, they're tubeless, they've got the gold rims, they come out the side, they're virtually identical. In fact, I would go as far as to say that they're the same wheels as the BMW. You've got integral fog lamps on the front that are built in. The plethora of things on this bike that are actually in there is, for the price I paid, for £7,500 sterling, are phenomenal. The heated seat, when I first got it in April, we had a few cool days. I went out, I had a heated seat on number 3, I had to turn it down to number 2, it was so hot. Turned it down to number 1, it was perfect. So if you were in a cold climate like the UK and you get a really cold day, heated seat 1 or 2 would be perfect. Heated grips really come on really fast. Again, had them set on 2. When I ride this bike, I prefer riding it with my wife on the back pillion. It seems to me to be a bit more subdued, with a bit more weight on it. Now I'm 80 kilo, my wife's around 60, so 140 kilo on the bike, it seems to subdue the bike a little bit. And what I mean by that is, when I ride it solo, it's a very highly temperamental bike in as much as it wants to go. It's not a cruising around bike on, it's not something you'll tootle around on. It wants to get up and go. If you want to ride it slow and you want to tootle around, stick it in rain mode and it'll calm it down a bit. But even in road mode, it's got some get up and go, and it really does want to take off. It rides better over 3,000 revs. So in lower revs under 3,000, you really need to be changing up. The engine is very similar to other style bikes similar to this. So KTM, you'll find that it is a bit raucous, and it is that type of engine and that type of bike designed to be that way. It's not super smooth. The BMW engine, this engine that's in this particular bike, when you ride a BMW, if you jumped on the BMW F850 GS and you jump on this, you'll think you're riding the same bike. It feels the same, sounds the same, handles the same. How does the 21-inch front wheel work? Well, the 21-inch front wheel, you would not think it would turn in as well as it does. It's really quick around the bends, it turns in really quick. It's really grippy, unless you're on loose, shaly roads that have got a bit of sand on or a bit of shale on, then you could do some intermediates on, which I might put on this later. You've got less chance of the back end stepping out then. The ride modes really do work well with the ABS and traction control. The front facing camera is continually recording, so you put a SD card in under the seat, minimum 64 gig, and that will record for a set amount of time in whatever increments you want to use on the application. So you download the VOGE app when you get it. That will give you access to the navigation that's supplied by VOGE. Now you may notice I've got a carbury system on this. There's nothing wrong with this system that comes with the bike, the built-in system that works via the app. But it's very similar to the Royal Enfield Tripper, where you have a pod and you get turn by turn. Now, it works fine, and you do, if you've got a headset on using the turn by turn, you will get notifications through your headset. But what you tend to get on the dash is turn right in 150 meters, turn left in 150 meters, go take the second roundabout. It's basically symbols on the dash, and I prefer a full-on navigation system, hence the carbury, which has been really, really solid. So guys, other manufacturers that are Chinese that you're riding around on, and you may be balking at this being totally Chinese, but KTM, most of their engines are made by CF Moto. The CF Moto 800 MT now uses a KTM 790 engine. Benelli, all Benellis now are made by China. Okay, they may go back to the Benelli factory in Italy, but China own the lion's share of the shares. Likewise with CF Moto, they own a lion's share of KTM. BMW, I don't know the exact position with BMW and Lonsin, other than the fact that they asked them to make an engine. They've made the engines for 20 years. I know there's a big collaboration going on with them. So you can't really knock the Chinese manufacturers on quality. They're up there with the leaders when they want to be. I'm not saying that there are cheap end Chinese bikes, the 125s, the smaller end bikes that are built to a budget price. This bike was purposely built at the price point it is for one reason only, and Lonsin want to get a foothold in the world market, which they have done successfully with this model. This model, the first batch came in April. They were immediately sold out, so you ordered it at Christmas blind, you got it in April. The second set were 3 months later, so every set sells out. If I were to put this for sale now on Spanish websites for sale, I would get the same price that I paid for it 4.5 months ago. Exactly the same price, or maybe a little bit more. I've seen them sell for more than they're going for, purely because of the 3-month wait to get the bike. And I cannot say enough good things about this. It's very rare that you get a bike and you ride it for 4.5 months, nearly every day. Most days I get out and have a ride on it. Some long journeys as well. It's not often you can get a bike that you can have for that period of time, that there are not little niggles where you're going back, you may get an engine light on, you may need to go back to the main dealer to have this or that done. This has been absolutely faultless. It's been brilliant. I changed the oil after the first service myself, only because it got to 40 degrees here. I put a high grade 50W20 in it, which was what they recommended. VOGE recommended in their manual that if you get over 40 degrees you should have that in the bike. I'll change it when we get the back end of November, when the temperatures are in the mid-20s. It'll go down to a 10W40 rate oil, so I will be putting oil in between servicing, and that's about it, guys. I mean, everything else, the tyres are holding up. I mean, I've done getting on for 3,500-4,000 mile now. There's no major wear on the Pirelli Scorpions. The back tread is really good. They're worn right to the edge, right to the chicken strip, so it's been over on its heels a little bit. And what I'll do now, guys, I'll take it out and I'll put a chest cam on so you can see more of a dash view, and we'll have a ride around. And when we ride around, what I'll do, I'll show you the cruise control and how it works, and I'll show you the shift up and down on the quick shifter. Now, the quick shifter, like I said before, works better once you've got a few thousand miles, a few thousand kilometers on the bike. It needs to be over 3,000 revs. You need to get used to using it. Now, you guys that have been used to using quick shifters, just disregard anything I'm saying at the moment, because you'll already know. When you're using a quick shifter, you need to have a steady throttle hand first. On rough roads, if your hand's doing this through vibrations, I wouldn't suggest. If you're on smooth tarmac and you want to open it up and just blip through the gears, when you pin, so you've got the throttle not fully open, obviously, because you're going to be revving the bike really bad. When you've got the throttle half open and you're doing over 3,000 revs, maybe 3.5, so you've got it pinned at 3,500 revs, you get to 3.5 in second or third gear, just touch the gear shift, tap it up, it'll go smoothly into the next gear. Don't touch the throttle at all, leave it where it is. You'll then accelerate to 3,500 in that gear, click it up, the same till you get into 6, and then you can throttle up and down as you wish. If you're changing down, you need to have the throttle totally closed to change down. So throttle pinned open to change up. Don't move it around as you're changing up. You can get a false click and a false neutral. You must be assertive with the gear change, so don't be frightened of doing this. When you first do it, it's something totally foreign if you've never done it before. Throttle half open, a solid click with your boot under the gear shift. Don't just push it up gently thinking, oh, is it going to go in or am I going to mess anything up? Be assertive and push it in, it'll go in fine. Do that all the way through. When I first used to ride it and I used to use the auto shift, I'd be going from 4th to 5th and I'd be a bit trepidatious doing it, and I'd push it, and instead of going into 5th, it would first get into a false neutral, so it would be between 5th and 6th gear. And what would happen then, because the throttle was pinned open, it would go, and you'd hear it rev, and then obviously you've got to close the throttle, pull the clutch in and get it in gear properly. So once you get used to using it and master it, it's quite useful. I don't use it all the time, that's why there's a clutch on here. Riding through town, most of the time if I downshift I don't do it, because I don't really want to wait till I get below 3,000 revs to shift down. If you're not below 3,000 revs, or it won't shift, the pedal won't move, so you can't shift down if it's not in the right band of engine revs to shift down, so you need to be somewhere around the right. So guys, hope you're getting a chest view from the camera and the microphone's working, because I can't see anything below my helmet, so I can't tell whether it's working or the sound's working, so hopefully we should have something coming through. Now this particular stretch of the road is really, really bumpy, guys. I'll try and stand up and give you a shot of the tarmac. I don't know if you can see it from the chest cam there, but I'll sit down again. And she sails over these bumps, no problem. 21-inch front wheel. Really, really flies around the bends. Really grippy on these Pirelli tyres. And you may see on the dash, or you might not, but I'm above 3,000 revs now in 5th gear. And what you need to do most of the time, this bike likes to be above 3,000, so I've changed down into 4th. Before we do anything with the auto blipper, we'll get onto some smoother tarmac, because as I said before, if your throttle hand is getting jerked around, your quick shift is going to be compromised a little bit. So we'll go a bit further along this road and get around a few of these bends. Very confidence inspiring. If you've ridden similar bikes to this, you'll know how well they handle rough terrain, and even these bends now, they're adverse cambers, but I'm not bothered about really tipping in. I'm on the lookout all the time for sand on the road and washed shale across the road, because obviously you tip it over too far when you're in them situations, and you're going to get a few problems. Right guys, we're on a smoother section of the road now. Just can't see if the camera's going or not. I think it's recording. I don't know if it's square around my neck or what, so right. I'll go down into 2nd gear and I'll show you what I mean. So if you see the dash now, we're over 3,000 revs. So throttle hand, clutch off, 4,000 revs. Up into 3rd from 2nd. Up into 4th from 3rd, 5th, 6th. So that's 2nd up through 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. When you're changing down, you need to be below 3,000 revs, so let it drop down. Just tap on the gear shift down, it's gone down into 5th. Still below 3, tap it again down into 4th. Take it below 3,000 again. Down into 3rd without the clutch. And 2nd, you really need to let it tool down. You shouldn't really be using it down into 2nd, but 2nd. Going the other way, throttle open again. Steady around this bend, because I've got one hand on the throttle. Lean around, shift it. into fifth. I might cut this bit out, guys, but like I was saying before, not a single thing has gone wrong with this. But today on the ride this morning, this bottom nut was a bit loose and the wing mirror was wobbling, and the coming out now, the top nut's a bit loose. I don't know why they should be. Very, very strange. Never had a problem before. This side's totally tight. Right, okay, onward and upward. So I would suggest, if you're quick shifting, go from third upwards. Second to third is a bit clunky. You may have seen that in the video before. So from third gear, over 3,000 revs. You can just over, just tap it, it'll go in nicely. Over 3,000 again, into fifth. Now if you're going over 4,000 revs, it's even smoother. It's designed to be a fast moving quick shift. And I'll get around this corner a bit further on and I'll show you the quick shifting going over 4,000 revs and how it switches a little bit better. Downshift without the clutch, downshift again without the clutch, down into second without the clutch, up into third without the clutch. It doesn't really like second to third on the quick shift, and I'll show you what I mean about 4,000. Over 4, over 4, see all the gears up to 6th gear on the quick shifter. I'll get around this panel, start shifting down, down into 5th, down into 4th, down into 3rd, down into 2nd, all without using the clutch. And again, I've used the clutch to 3rd because it doesn't really like 2nd to 3rd, but there we are. But what it's designed for is if you put it in sports mode and you do this, it's a very quick shift up in sports mode. So yeah, the quick shifter works fine. You've just got to get accustomed to using it if you want to use it all the time. I find myself not using an awful lot. I'm pretty old school, so I tend to use the clutch more. But it does function okay. I mean, I've driven a whole journey from a local town back to our place without touching the clutch at all, so I've gone up and down every single gear with the quick shifter up and down, and you can do it. It's just something that's not really, it's a bit foreign to me. It's something I'm not used to doing, but certainly if you're in sports mode and you wanted to wind it on a fast overtake, you know, it'll save a lot of time rather than use the clutch. Now I'll turn around and I'll show you the cruise control, providing the camera's still filming and my microphone's not run out of battery. One thing about this bike, guys, when you're going really slow, it's quite easy to manoeuvre as long as you have confidence doing it. It quite turns around quite quick and quite sharp. There you can see the slow manoeuvre is okay. What you've got to remember when you come to a stop with this, especially with pillion on the back, is it's quite high up. I know it's only 830, but you'll notice it if you're 5'10" or under. And if you've got a pillion on the back, what you tend to do is you come into a stop like I am now, with the weight of pillion and everything else, you're more or less using the front brake, and what you do, you come to a stop with a pillion on the back, the front end dives, and a lot of times on a heavy bike like this with a pillion and weight on the back, if you're not using a back brake, you get that dive. When it springs back up on the rebound, it can throw you off the bike or throw you to one side, so you have to be a bit aware of that. So if we're still filming, we'll try and do the cruise control. and of course you have to be in third gear or over to do cruise. It will work from quite low down, so get it up to something like, I don't know, somewhere near 60 kilometers. So you press this button to the left. I'm doing 58 now. It's telling me to change down. You can see the arrow down indicator. Now it's stopped. So 60 and above, 68. It knows you're okay in this gear for the cruise. So get it to 70 maybe. Pull back on the little button here. Pull it back. You're in cruise mode now. So hand off the throttle. It's going to keep me at 70. It's a 90 along here, 90 kilometers per hour. If you touch anything, it will knock it off. Touch the brakes and it will knock it off. Just push forward on it to resume. It's asking you to change down there, but it'll accelerate. Once it gets to the right speed, it'll be okay. If it's purposely lower, you need to change down a gear. Once you change down a gear, it will knock the cruise off and you'll have to reselect it by pushing forward. So push left to get the cruise working, pull it back to engage the speed you want. When it knocks itself off, push forward to resume. So pretty straightforward, guys. So if I accelerate now and go up to the speed limit 90, and I pull back again, I'll now hold it at that speed until I hit the brakes. On the motorway dual carriageway, it's amazing. Just set it to the speed of the dual carriageway, and it's telling me to change down. It's a fifth now, showing it's a fourth. So we'll change down to fourth. We'll go resume again. Now it's going to try and go back up to 70, so it'll keep it in fourth. We're in okay gear there. As soon as it shifts the brakes, it'll disengage again. So the bike all round is very, very good, guys. There's nothing really to dislike. The only thing I dislike, and this is the only thing now, the gearbox, everything else I'm okay with. All the early niggles I had are just teething problems when you get the bike. Or not teething problems, but getting accustomed to how the bike is. The only thing I still don't like is this indicator switch. And that's the only thing on the bike that niggles me. To get rid of the cruise control, push it the same way again and it just goes off. So yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up. If you're in the UK, try and get a test ride on them. I would imagine there'll be a waiting list in the UK. I know here now the next batch is 3 months again, so people are waiting now till February, as far away as February, some of them for the bikes. There will be some in the late autumn that have been pre-ordered that will be coming in. But yeah, the fastest selling bike in Spain for the last 2 months above the 125 category. We can't get them into Spain quick enough. And yeah, it's a wonderful bike, guys, all round. Can't say anything really bad about it at all. So give me a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, ride safe.